Folks, this is Clay Dennis with Southern Hearth Patio. One of the things that we talk about here in the store as far as wood stoves are concerned is making sure that you buy the wood stove that's sized for the space or the area that you're wanting to heat. If you're going to put this thing into a 450, maybe 600 square foot office or area maybe in a basement, you just can't be looking at a 3,000 square foot stove. There's no sense in it. So we actually have stoves here at Southern Hearth that range from 1,000, 1,200, 2,500, 3,000. But I also have stoves that go from 800 to 1,000, maybe 800 to 1,200. The trick is making sure that you get a stove that can only handle so much wood at any given time. You're going to give up overnight burns in most of those cases because you only have so many BTUs per pound when you limit the number of pounds we put in this stove. But what it's going to do is it's going to keep you from having to light the wood stove and spend the next 10 minutes in there enjoying it and then having to go to other parts of the house. In an effort to be environmentally conscious, we also carry Morso wood stoves. Morso wood stoves are 98% post-consumer goods. This stove right here actually used to be bicycles, lamp posts. I'm sure there's some bits and pieces of cars, all kinds of things that went into the building of this stove. We think that's important. This company also holds the Nordic Swan, which is kind of the EPA standard here in North America. The Nordic Swan is one of these really hard to get approval ratings of Europe. All Morso stoves are EPA compliant, so I still have the tax credit available. I'm still meeting the needs or the requirements of the Clean Air Act here in the United States. But one of the things that Morso does that I think is absolutely spectacular is they figured out how to zone heat simply by putting smaller amounts of wood in. You get the secondary burn. You still get all the great things that we do on all the other stoves, but on a shorter time period and being able to heat a smaller area. All Morso cast iron stoves are actually built of a type or a specification of cast iron called GG150. GG150 actually has a little higher carbon content than almost any other wood stoves, any of the other cast iron wood stoves. GG150 is the same standard to which the brakes are made on the tractor trailers going all over the country. So they're designed to handle tremendous amounts of heat and being able to swell and contract without having to worry about cracking like you see in a lot of stoves that heat up too fast. Also, most cast iron stoves today are built with a silicone gasket or silicone seal between the parts when they're bolted together. Over a 5 or 6 year period, those are going to come apart, and it's going to be something that you have to, it's not a big deal, but you are going to have to take the stove apart and redo. These guys actually don't use a silicone seal, they actually use a fiberglass rope gasket that goes around all of their crevices where they bolt together. So you should get a 10 to 12 year lifespan on those, but it allows, what that silicone doesn't do that the rope does do, is the rope allows the stove to expand and contract with heat. So it actually is a far better way to do things, even though it may be a little bit more expensive. So wood stoves also use a vermiculite inner liner. Now the vermiculite liner is up to 3 times better insulating than the pumice or the clay liners that you see on other manufacturers. You can actually see inside here, looks like it kind of has a little rigid appearance to it. And what it's going to do is it holds tremendous amounts of heat inside a relatively small stove. Now again, just like all the other stoves, you do have secondary burn. What I'll do is I can throttle this down a little and you can actually watch the fire become a lot lazier and begin to burn up off of the wood itself. And that's going to be able to burn all of my nitrogen, carbon, hydrogen, the things that we've discussed before, and burning all of those combustible gases coming off of wood. So it is EPA compliant, it does do secondary burn. You're not going to get overnight burn, but the important thing here is that you're going to get comfort. Now, the other part about Morso stoves that's really cool is because they're designed to heat smaller areas. Now remember, Morso does have a line of stoves that are designed to heat 2,500, 3,000 square feet as well. So we can get into those as well. But one of the cool things here is that it has incredibly small clearance to combustibles. Because this stove brings in air from underneath, brings it around the back, I actually have clearances off of a wall or a corner of only 4 inches. So if we do have some tight space considerations, this is definitely the stove you want to do. To give you an idea of how cool and calm this thing really is, you can actually touch the top of the stove. Now I'm not going to talk about come up here and just lay your hand on it, but it's actually cool enough because of its airflow to touch the back of the stove. Okay? Because of that, you're going to get, by the way, this is a convective wood stove as well. It is a radiant heater to a point, but this is a stove inside a stove. Literally, there's another stove inside of here, and this shell allows for cool air to come in, be heated, and then exit the top of the stove. So with all that air movement, it's going to keep the exterior of the stove, especially the back of it, relatively cool. In terms of styling, Morso has a lot of different models that are designed to appeal from eclectic to traditional to modern. In fact, this particular stove, they actually worked with a European designer named Monica Ritterbahn. And what she did was she designed an arched, rounded front stove that I think arguably would be different than anybody else out there. This is a real work of art, and it's something that is really going to enhance the overall appearance of a room that when people are afraid of looking at something really mechanical in the room, like a lot of wood stoves can look. Now, in addition to the 98% recycled goods, Morso also lives green. They don't just build green stuff. They actually, they really live it. All packaging is 100% post-consumer goods, as well as the power that the plant and the American distribution plant operates off of are actually between 80 and 85% off of grid. Now what that means is they're using alternative power such as wind, solar, and water versus typical electric sources. Morso is actually the oldest wood stove company in the world, starting back in the 1850s. In fact, they're actually just a couple of months older than the Yodel, so that's kind of a fight that's been going on for a few years, but the fact is they are just a little bit older. They build the contemporary modern stoves, and that's probably what they've become most notable for in recent years. But they still build stoves that are designed to heat anywhere from 2,000, 2,500, 2,800, like we talked about before. And this is actually one here of a full cast iron radiant stove. And one of the things that you're going to see here, just the lines of this thing, really kind of makes it look like a piece of furniture. Any of the details that you see on cast iron today are completely unnecessary. They serve no purpose whatsoever, except light. The fact that the light hits certain elements of this thing, it really highlights light and dark, and presents a really great look inside the stove, or inside the room. Now, this particular stove is rated to heat 2,500 square feet. It is capable of holding 24-inch pieces of wood. That's bigger than any other stove that I carry. It is a front-load stove if you choose, but because of the grading system, it is much easier to load from the side. The left-hand door opens up, and you can load up to 24-inch lumber, and then you close this up. Okay? Now, being a full radiant stove, the clearance to combustibles off the back on this one are about 17 inches, so it's not going to be designed for smaller spaces. But as a radiant stove, it is designed, if you have a very open floor plan, stick this thing right inside the middle of that room, load it up, and walk away. Tomorrow morning when you get up, you'll have plenty of hot ashes to load up, to throw some wood in and start back over. All right, here I wanted to showcase some of the rope gasketing that I talked about earlier. If you look right on the side of this door, you can see gasketing at every contact point. This fiberglass rope doesn't just wrap around the glass or the door like most manufacturers, but I do have some here. I've got some down on the insides, and then at each contact point, I don't know if you can see this with the camera, but if you look in the back right-hand corner, you can see the rope gasketing there as well. And then it's bolted together. And of course, you see the vermiculite side panels as well. Now, one of the things that's different about Morso is that when you see the stove burning, you'll notice that there's no handle. One of the things that the handle is designed to do on a Morso is to spring away. Springing away allows something like this to not scald somebody accidentally, but it also creates the look of a piece of furniture in your wood stove. Nobody wants to have a handle sticking right up like this. It's kind of mechanical looking, and you can have that fire in there without the handle. It's kind of an interesting look. I think it bothered me at first because it was so different, but the more I got used to the idea of someone not grabbing that handle, the more I liked it. As you can see, at Southern Hearth Patio, we don't bring in name brands just for the sake of the name brands. There's got to be a reason behind it. We want to showcase certain products and special products that can take care of special needs. We're also proud of the fact that Morso North America decided to put their North American headquarters right here in Portland, Tennessee. And again, they are 100% off-grid power. So we love the fact that they chose Tennessee as a home, and we want to support businesses like that. Thanks for watching the Southern Hearth and Patio channel. We'll be back soon with some more videos.